I was so excited to finally have a fall baby because all of my babies have been born in spring or summer, which means a lot of time was spent indoors taking care of that new little one. And I would be cooped up then a lot in the summer when I was really hoping to be outside. And so I was so excited for a fall baby because finally it would be over the winter when I would be inside. And then when he's 6 months old, we would emerge and it would be spring and summer and we would go have a lot of fun. The part I didn't really think about was that this meant I would actually spend a lot of time inside all winter when it's already kind of dark and dreary. And then this cute little baby number 4 refused to nap. And so I spent so much time in this room with the lights off, the noisemaker on, holding him, helping him sleep, and hoping that eventually those, all the sleep training and sleep cues would kick in. And so what happened is January, February, we get to March, and I am starting to feel a little bit stir crazy. And then some just like weird things started happening in the world. I watch a little too much football, and the Super Bowl happened. The Chiefs won. They're having a Super Bowl parade, and there's a shooting. And then almost on top of that, right here in our community, there was like some armed robberies pretty close to our home. And then right after that, this made national news. There were actually two police officers and a first responder that were actually killed right here in the South Metro where we live. And what happened was that little bit of I've kind of been shut in. I'm feeling a little bit like I need to get out of the house. I need some vitamin D and sunlight. Then started to mix with these messages of, wow, what is happening in the world? And I literally was like, what is happening to people? And what are we doing? And what is the world becoming? And before I know it, then every little thing I would see on social media, or maybe I don't watch the news, but I would hear about the news, started to kind of add to this message of the world is a scary place. What future do we have for our kids? Here I am holding a brand new baby, and what does the future hold for him? As I'm praying about this, thinking about this, what am I going to do? It just hit me. I was like, I got to get out of the house. Like, baby boy is older now. We got to go. We got to connect with people. We got to get some vitamin D, and we need to serve. And I know that sometimes that can seem overly simplistic, but I have experienced in the past that when we're on offense, like meaning when we're actually doing something good, contributing to serving and helping and contributing positive things into the world, we start to feel more hopeful because now we're on offense. And so for my Bible study audience, I would love to know, how do you perceive the world right now? Like on a scale of 1 to 5, if 5 is like, I'm terrified, I never leave my house, or 1 is like, it's Pleasantville. What are you talking about? I don't even lock my doors. Okay. So 1 is like, the world is amazing. 5 is like, I won't even go out of the house. How are you perceiving the world right now? And then we'll see if I can actually put together kind of an average. And we do have people from all over the world, which I think is kind of fun. And so I'm seeing a lot of 3s and 4s. Oh, I think we're landing on 3 pretty much. Some 2s, 3s. I know where you live in the world or even in the United States, if you're here, can make a big difference. 3s and 4s is what I'm just seeing loads of. So should we, what do you guys think? 3.5? So, what I want to talk about though is what, like, Jesus came actually into a pretty scary world, and he passed off an even scarier world to the disciples. But somewhere in his life and in that handoff, there was hope. And so I do think if you're feeling like you want to kind of join in with me, I am looking to in May intentionally find ways to serve and to connect myself to the people around me. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. I remember when we were in 4-H growing up, which was mostly a gathering of farm kids to, I think, get out of the house. We would also like sew and play softball and do speeches. We, though, in at Christmas time, we would go to the nursing home and we would go play bingo, and then we would sing carols for the residents at the local nursing home. And this is when I was like 10, 11, 12. And so I had enough awareness to know that this is an environment that I haven't been in before and feels uncomfortable. And many of us, if we've gone to serve maybe like with an organization or a church or something like that, you have those initial feelings of, I don't know what to expect. I feel uncomfortable. Should I do it? Should I call in sick? I'm in the parking lot. Should I really go in? And I think all of that is extremely normal. But invariably, what would happen after we sit with the residents, after we play a few rounds of bingo, we get up to sing for them, we see the smiles, we see them clapping, we felt so good. And I don't want this to come off like I'm just going to use people around me to feel good, but rather what I'm hoping to do during the month of May is to do the things that have been in my heart to do. And so again, in the chat, you guys, I would love to know, what are things that you have done to serve in the past? Like, have you, like in traditional volunteering roles, I serve 4 children every single day. So that's real. I know some of us are serving, family members who are ill, things like that. But if you've done something outside of the home or with an organization in the past, I would love to hear about it and what your experience was. How did you feel when you were doing that? Wow. Stacy said she was washing feet at a homeless shelter. Okay, Stacy, how did that feel? Bonnie said food shelf. Yep. Beth said helped with homeless, felt great. Oh, helping at school, VBS, events at church. Oh, Meals on Wheels, currently including my great grandkids in it. That's awesome. Helping host small group. Yep. And ushering at church, helping with outreach at church, sandwiches for the homeless, food kitchens, volunteer secretary. Okay, it's going so fast. I think it's pretty well established. In fact, in the World Happiness Report that just came out, it was saying that if we serve one time per week, which I know maybe for some of us feels like a big commitment, though, we see a dramatic 30% increase in happiness. Now, again, as Christians, like our goal isn't just to be happy, right? But our goal is to be a body. Our goal is to be in communion with the Lord and to honor him. And so I wanted to just look at how Paul approached this in First Corinthians. So as I share this passage, my last question for you guys is, I just want to know, what are small free ways that in the month of May, if we're gonna, if we're gonna dedicate ourselves to this, small free ideas to serve, show love, especially in our family, our neighbors, our immediate community. Random acts of service are awesome, but I would love to know in our local community, neighbors, family members, friends, what can we do? Little free ways to serve. So do that while I'm going to share this passage. This is Paul in 1 Corinthians 3. I'm going to read verses 1 through 9. Brothers and sisters, I could not address you as people who live by the Spirit, but as people who are still worldly, mere infants in Christ. I gave you milk, not solid food, for you were not yet ready for it. Indeed, you are still not ready. This is a letter of rebuke if we missed it. Okay. Verse 4. For when one says, I follow Paul, and another, I follow Apollos, are you not mere human beings? So, okay, here's what this means. In Roman Greco society, the class distinctions were extremely important. And so you would have, your upper class, which were obviously uh, often the ruling class, and then down from there down to then your slaves and bondservants and then slaves who have absolutely no rights. And what people of a lower rank would do is they would actually attach themselves to someone who is a higher rank in order for them to help provide for their welfare. So it's like, hey, I'm going to show loyalty to you. And then in return, I'm hoping that you're going to help to provide work for me and consistent contributions to my family. And now what the upper class people would do is they would use all of these people who were patrons to them, they would use that as a show of their social status. Look at all of these people who are dedicated to me and whom I'm supporting. And what's happening here is Paul is actually seeing this happen in the church. And the people are starting to attach themselves to Paul and to Apollos, like, I serve you. And so what we're going to see here, though, is Paul is actually like, no, I serve you. And that is the model in Christ's kingdom. So verse 5, continuing on, says, what, after all, is Apollos? And what is Paul? Only servants, through whom you came to believe, as the Lord has assigned to each his task. It's really interesting here that Paul says, what? What is Apollos and what is Paul? It's like he's actually just referring to them as objects. He's saying, we are nothing. And even the word here that he used for servant is like a laborer in a field. So right above slave would be these day laborers who would get their hands dirty, do extremely hard labor. And that's what Paul is referring to himself as. And in verse 6, he continues, I planted the seed. So he's going to kind of continue with this agricultural theme. I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God has been making it grow. So neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but only God who makes things grow. The one who plants and the one who waters have one purpose, and they will each be rewarded according to their own labor. For we are co-workers in God's service. You are God's field, God's building. And so, what Paul is doing here is he's actually placing himself underneath the people that he's serving. He's saying, I'm just the gardener. And in fact, I don't look to you for my reward, I look to God for it. And because you are God's and this is God's field, I am just the day laborer in his kingdom. And, in Paul's time, we see the church is forming. They're starting to have to put a little bit of structure around it. And it just seems like whenever organization comes to a thing, we can't help but, start looking for status and who's the leader and who's in charge and who's most important. And Paul is demonstrating over and over again in the New Testament. He's saying, I am nothing but a servant. And my only work is to actually become under you in order to lift you up. And this is the example in the kingdom. And so I feel like this is the invitation for us to look at ourselves as day laborers for Christ and say, Lord, what can we do? What can we do to show compassion to a lost and hurting world? What can we do to serve those who don't know you or who are experiencing hardship or need hope themselves right now? And I had another thought. And oh, this was my thought. It's a good one. Sometimes we think about like Mother Teresa, right? So she gave up everything. She lived among the poor of the poor in India. All she did, she dedicated her life to service. And we look at examples like that and we think, what a hard life. How could we choose such hardship and give up so much comfort and, and all of these different things in life? But the thing that I want to share with you, and that I think Paul understood so fully, was that when we do things in line with the kingdom and within the order that Jesus established, we actually find fullness of life. And so, like I mentioned earlier, it feels good when we serve, right? Like we kind of get that, like, hey, all right, I did something good. I'm a good person. Like, okay, I believe the Lord hardwired that in us. That is part of being a body. We are supposed to feel good when the other part of the body feels better. We're supposed to rejoice with those who rejoice. And then we're also supposed to get down in the dirt and mourn with those who mourn. And there's something hardwired in us to share that joy and to feel energized when we're connecting and doing what we're designed to do, but also then to grieve and to mourn and to be with those who are in pain. So more to come. Please keep sharing ideas with me. So, okay, so let's look at some of these ideas for just kind of helping out. Carla says, have tea with my 92-year-old neighbor weekly, which is awesome. Listen and pray with a coworker, yard or housework for a neighbor in need, sending a note to a friend, buying a coffee or meal for a stranger, watching someone's kids for free. I think that's beautiful. um, and let's see, smile at everyone everywhere you go. It's amazing how even that, holding a door open, do you ever hold a door open and you're like, chivalry still exists in the world. I am going to see to it. I am going to be a good example. Help someone get groceries and help carry them in, compliment a stranger. Awesome. Pay it backwards at a drive-through. Yep, I love that. Sometimes at Starbucks, I worry how much they spent. Volunteer at a hospital. Work as an advocate in a kids court. Smile and thank hospital workers. Tell them thank you. Volunteer at a therapeutic riding center. Awesome. Okay. So please, in the comments, keep sharing ideas. We're going to put this together for the month of May. We'll have some fun with it. There might be prizes and everything, but for now, I would love for you just to share ideas and get excited about it, and let us know too in the comments if you've served before. Just what that's done for you as well, and also what that's done for your outlook for the future. So, Father, I just thank you so much for this time. Lord, I thank you that you're with us. Lord, that in everything that you've called us to, you've given us abundant strength and grace and wisdom for that thing. Lord, whether it's serving our family, whether it's the work that we do, or if it's serving in our community or stretching ourselves in this next season, Father, I just pray that you would lead us in discernment. Lord, you would show us what's ours to steward. Lord, what field am I called to be your day laborer in? Lord, what seeds have been planted that I can go water? And Father, help us to look to you for our reward. Lord, that we would know ultimately that this is for you. This is for your glory. This is for your kingdom, but it's for your people. So, Lord, truly help us to be your hands and feet. Help us to be led by compassion and love, and help us to become a little bit more like you. So I bless each one of us now in Jesus' name. Amen.